Hey there, it's George from DinosaurGeorge.com answering all of your brilliant questions. Okay, let's dive headfirst into it. We're going to take a trip to beautiful Australia, where Robert from Melbourne writes and says, "Hey dude, I was just wondering if you saw Jurassic Park 3. Yes, I did. Dude. He said, because if you have, I was wondering if the Spinosaurus in the movie is anything like that in real life. You know, their depiction of Spinosaurus was pretty good. I actually think it was very good. Now, some of the things it did were not accurate in my opinion. For instance, grabbing the neck of a Tyrannosaurus and twisting it and breaking it. I think that cracking sound in reality would have been the sound of its jaw breaking, not Tyrannosaurus's neck breaking. But I do like the fact that it was pretty accurate when you look at its skeletal design and its structure. I like that a lot. Okay, my good buddy Zack from Uniontown, Pennsylvania said, I want to know if Allosaurus had good visual field overlap. Well, Zack, first of all, that's a great question. It's nice to hear from you. Please tell your family and your dad that I said hello. Your dad wrote a very nice email to me, and I appreciate it very much. Zack, Allosaurus, unfortunately, even though I love that dinosaur, his field of vision was not as advanced as Tyrannosaurus Rex because of its skull design. See, when you look at Allosaurus, one of the things is that you notice it does not have 100% binocular vision. That is, its eyes were not straight forward. His eyes looked slightly off to the side. So what that would mean is that in order to look directly ahead, it would slightly have to cock its head from side to side. But it still had pretty incredible vision, which it needed to be able to chase down prey. And looking at the way that he's built, I have no doubt that Allosaurus was chasing down prey. Okay, Hamzah from London in the United Kingdom. What would you say would be the most dangerous, biggest, and most clever carnivore out of these? Giganotosaurus, Spinosaurus, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Carcharodontus, and Allosaurus. Hamzah, cool question. I like your use of the word clever. That is cool. We often don't apply the word clever to dinosaurs, but I think dinosaurs were pretty clever, especially the predators. I think the word clever is actually better than the word intelligent, to tell you the truth. I think there's a difference between clever and intellect. And I think predatory dinosaurs were probably more clever than they were smart. Okay. These are different questions. The problem is being most dangerous. Well, being the biggest. The problem with being the biggest is what determines big. Is big determined by height and length? Is big determined by mass? Here's what I would say. Out of the list of all these dinosaurs that you gave me, even though I love Allosaurus and I desperately want Allosaurus to be the winner in this, it would be Tyrannosaurus Rex. He has a more advanced brain. He has a more advanced skull design. Everything about him is more advanced than all these other dinosaurs. And so in my opinion, he would therefore be the most clever. He would therefore be the most dangerous. I think he would absolutely be tops well beyond these. After him, it would probably be a tie between Giganotosaurus and Carcharodontosaurus, and then my beloved Allosaurus, and then Spinosaurus. And maybe that's being unfair to Spinosaurus. You know, you oftentimes hear me talk about Spinosaurus and saying that he doesn't have the ability to be a big game hunter and all that stuff. But I don't want to denigrate that dinosaur, man. That's a big time, huge dude. So maybe I don't give him his just reward. I'm not a Spino basher, but certainly I probably am at fault for not making it clear enough. Spinosaurus is a bad dude. I just don't think he's advanced as these other guys. Okay. My little buddy Rodrigo from Monterrey, Mexico, he says, "Hey DG, it's me again, Rodrigo the Mexican." Rodrigo, that's so cool, man. He said, "Thank you for answering my questions, George." Well, it's my pleasure. He says, "You're a very good friend of mine and someone that appreciates very much his friends." Well, you know what? I do, Rodrigo. I do appreciate you and all the other people that write to me. I've had a lot of very wonderful things happen in my life, but one of the things that I hold dearest to me is the fact that so many people consider me a friend. That is a huge honor. It doesn't make any difference how much money you make. It doesn't make any difference how many times your name appears in newspapers or how many times you're on television. At the end of the day, what matters is whether or not you've got friends. And I feel I have, and therefore I feel like I'm a complete and absolute success in my life. And it's because of people like you. So thank you, buddy. He said, all right, here's my question. What evidence do we have that makes us think that reptiles like plesiosaurs or chronosaurs lived in the ocean? Couldn't they live in fresh water? That is a really astute question, Rodrigo. That's a very good question. Here's the deal. The reason why we know that they lived in marine environments is because all we have to do is look at the fossil evidence that surrounds them. When you find crab shells and shark teeth and ammonites and bivalves and clams and brachiopods and fish vertebra that we know belong to fish that are still out there today, like marlin and that kind of stuff, it's very clear to know where they are. It would be like if somebody asked me, how do we know Aborigines ever lived in Australia? Well, because when we go to Australia, we can find evidence of them. So clearly they were there at that time. Same thing with these sea creatures. We go to locations where the sediment that we find represents the ocean, and we find them there, and therefore it tells us they lived there. Could they live in fresh water? Yes, they could, but here's the deal. The problem with fresh water, salt water, that is marine water, actually adds lift and supports the mass. The saltier the water, the more weight it supports. So in other words, it doesn't take a lot of effort if you're a giant to kind of float motionlessly. When you live in the fresh water and you have a heavy body, you have a tendency to sink. And so living in the salt water means it's much more, it's easier to support giant mass. That's why there are not whales in fresh water, because they need the salt water to be able to support their mass. So they could have, but most of them probably stayed in marine environments. He said, and my second question is, which period of time scale did Megalodon live? He lived in the Miocene, I believe. I'm almost sure. He said, okay, thanks so much, DG. I appreciate the time you dedicate to me. P.S. If you come to Mexico, tell me. He says, because I have some nice exhibits I want to show you. And if you ever bring your exhibit, I want to be your partner. Happy birthday and Merry Christmas. Rodrigo, same to you, my friend. Happy birthday and Merry Christmas to you and all of your family. And thank you so much for writing to me. Okay, finally, Lewis from, I think this is Aveiro, Portugal. Lewis, I hope I pronounced that correctly. He says, hey, Dinosaur George, my question is about Nanotyrannus, Saurophaganax, and E. Panterius. So is there any evidence to think that Nanotyrannus was a distinct genus, or could it just be a juvenile Tyrannosaurus rex? The same thing with Saurophaganax and E. Panterius. Okay, here's the deal. Well, he says the same thing with Saurophaganax and E. Panterius. Are they just a large Allosaurus specimen? Okay, here's the deal. Nanotyrannus, clearly, absolutely, I have no doubts whatsoever in my mind. It is its own genus, and here's why. I've studied the skeleton of it. I've seen it, not the original, but replica. And I have access to the world's only baby Tyrannosaurus rex, a true juvenile Tyrannosaurus rex. It's owned by a business partner of mine. It is a Tyrannosaurus rex. Dr. Robert Bacher, Dr. Phil Curry have all looked at it. Clearly, it is a Tyrannosaurus rex. And they are so completely distinctively different that there is no doubt in my mind. The other thing about Nanotyrannus is that it had a different brain, it had a different number of teeth, it had a different tooth design. To believe that Nanotyrannus is a juvenile Tyrannosaurus rex means that as it grew up, it lost certain numbers of teeth, the tooth design completely changed, and oh, by the way, the brain didn't just change its position in the skull, it changed everything about it. So to me, I don't think there's much of a debate. There are a few people that hang on to the notion. One guy in particular is desperately trying to convince the world that Nanotyrannus is a juvenile T-Rex, but that's because I think it has to do with him wanting to grab attention and be better known in paleontology. Finally, when it comes to Saurophaganax and E. Panterius, whether or not they're just large Allosaurus specimens, that may very well be, because not enough of either of these have been found. There's a good possibility that Saurophaganax and E. Panterius could represent nothing more than a gigantic Allosaurus. But I've looked at the two of them, especially the hand. It looks a little bit different. So in my opinion, I think they are two different animals. I think they're clearly different species than Allosaurus. Same family, but different genus. All right, everybody, that's it for this time. If you have a question, go to my website, dinosaurgeorge.com. And while you're there, join my group of friends on Facebook or follow me on Twitter. Until next time, everybody, take care, and I will see you all again soon.